in the US or the UK. People talk about growth under Trump. Look at the deficits as well. They're not creating like private sector led prosperity in that country. Same in this country. Certainly not if you take out big tech. So this is not the same as the 30s. What would you say to them between the debt, zero growth, even the demographics, right? We're much older societies, so the constraints are higher, the costs are higher with regards to elderly care, healthcare, etc. What would you say to them?
Well, first I would say, look at we are a more innovative society. There have been enormous advances in science. What is the basis of why our standard of living today is so much higher than 250 years ago? It's basically science and figuring out how to work together collectively. New forms of social organization, large corporations, and within the broader sense of society, checks and balances, rule of law, how to make democracies work. And we've learned a lot about when things don't work. What are the principles of good governance and what are principles of bad governance? So I would say, in terms of fundamentals, we're actually in a much better position than we were 100 years ago. The question is, how do we use all that knowledge and channel that knowledge to make a more prosperous society, and prosperous for not just a few, but for most members of our society? And in the end, I think we've been caught in a 45-year failed experiment. And to me, the answer is to break out of the experiment, recognize the failure. The experiment, of course, is the neoliberal experiment. The idea that free markets are going to lead to higher growth, that will be shared by everybody through trickle-down economics, and markets are on their own stable. I mean, all those hypotheses, we've given them a good try, and they failed. Not just in one country, but in country after country. So to me, with all that knowledge, we are on a better footing to begin to create an alternative economic system. I don't think it's going to be easy, because in a democracy, you have to convince a lot of people. And I hate to use the word, but they've been brainwashed for decades that this particular system, if you only gave it a chance, this system, neoliberal capitalism, would work. But eventually, they're becoming disillusioned. And this disillusionment is leading them to go to authoritarian populism. And you might say the good news in this very dark hour is that Trump is showing them that authoritarian populism may not be a good answer for anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting that the collapse of neoliberalism and the collapse of the neoliberal self is something that you even see play out with social media. So you might highlight a market failure or a negative externality, stuff that people like yourself as economists have talked about for a very long time, and they'll say, that's socialism, that's immigration. Because of course it can't be the nature of the economic system you're living in, because like that's self-correcting, it finds equilibrium naturally. And that's the fresh air we've been imbibing as a culture for a very long time. And I think you're right. That's precisely why the answer for many people is right-wing authoritarianism. I'm going to stick with the skeptic stance for one moment, though.